young.
I'm not ashamed of it. I'm just 31 years old, so.
Relatively young, 31 years old with 3 kids.
With 3 kids, yes.
Strong man.
Yes, actually, you know, I had, the first set was buy one, get one free. So they are twins, Zunwa and Wantama. I went in for one and had one free. So they are twins. Then the second one, Donwire, he's a boy, barely 3-4 months old now. And you know the good aspect of it.
No.
By natural coincidence, all 3 kids share same birthday.
I see.
5th October.
Hey, I see. And what's your birthday?
Mine is especially in March, of course, with you.
23rd
March, we share same birthday too.
Yeah. 23rd March. Charlie, so your gifts should be ready.
Yeah.
On the 23rd
intelligent
March,
people are born in March.
I'm
so.
telling you. Wait, was Akufo-Addo born in March?
Akufo-Addo, of course, was born in March.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, that's good.
We can always segment the days. Those born early, those born in the middle, and those born later.
Yeah, we the ones in the middle and the latter.
But of course, a lot of powerful people were born in March.
We're born in March. Yeah.
There's no argument about it.
Anyway.
By now, February borns are very worried, but we don't care.
Okay, right. So these are the topics. We're still expecting our other panelists to join us, but let me just go for this quick breather. On my return, we will zoom in straight into action. Perhaps start the conversation with Ghana's Day of Shame, something that is dear to my heart, and so we'll start the conversation with Ghana's Day of Shame. Stay with us. Don't move. We must say we shall return shortly.
Trasacco Estates, home to Accra's most beautiful and luxurious homes, presents its newest addition, Trasacco Springs, a premium master planned community of service plots surrounded by an exhaustive list of amenities. The gated community of Tema to Accra Motorway presents you the finest opportunity to own a land that suits your preferred size, budget, and payment terms. Trasacco Springs is open to you for development. Our on-site sales executives are ready. Call on 055 659 2658.
The Socialist Movement of Ghana, SMG, invites all progressive and revolutionary forces to the observance of Ghana's Day of Shame on Thursday, February 24th, 2022. 56 years has passed since the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA of the USA, and its local collaborators launched a futile attack on the African Revolution. This Day of Shame will be marked with a public forum on the theme 56 years after the overthrow of Nkrumah, the state of the Ghanaian economy. The event will be chaired by Comrade Post-coup, convener of the Socialist Movement of Ghana. The speakers will be Professor Jane Nana Opoku Ajiman, first female vice-chancellor of a public university in Ghana and vice presidential candidate of the NDC in the 2020 elections, and Comrade Kwesi Pratt Jr., General Secretary of the Socialist Movement of Ghana. The event starts at 5 p.m. prompt at the new headquarters of the Socialist Movement of Ghana, next door to the Noga Hill Hotel on the George Walker Bush Highway. Come and join the struggle to ensure that imperialism never succeeds. This event will be telecasted live on Pan-African television and streamed on our Facebook and YouTube pages. The Socialist Movement of Ghana, SMG, invites all progressive and revolutionary forces to the observance of Ghana's Day of Shame on Thursday, February 24th, 2022. 56 years has passed since the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA of the USA, and its local collaborators launched a futile attack on the African Revolution. This Day of Shame will be marked with a public forum on the theme 56 years after the overthrow of Nkrumah, the state of the Ghanaian economy. The event will be chaired by Comrade Post-coup, convener of the Socialist Movement of Ghana. The speakers will be Professor Jane Nana Opoku Ajiman, first female vice-chancellor of a public university in Ghana and vice presidential candidate of the NDC in the 2020 elections, and Comrade Kwesi Pratt Jr., General Secretary of the Socialist Movement of Ghana. The event starts at 5 p.m. prompt at the new headquarters of the Socialist Movement of Ghana, next door to the Noga Hill Hotel on the George Walker Bush Highway. Come and join the struggle to ensure that imperialism never succeeds. This event will be telecasted live on Pan-African television and streamed on our Facebook and YouTube pages.
That quick commercial break. If you just joined us, you're watching the newspaper segment on Pan-African television. My name is Kwame Owusu Danso. Mr. Pratt just joined us. Good morning, sir. So, Elvis, I think it's important that we of course, we are going to be dealing with these matters, but also to talk about today, a significant day or date, if you will, in the history of Ghana's politics, where Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown in 1966. So today popularly has been described as Ghana's Day of Shame.
It is also Ghana's Day of Lies.
Okay.
Today is also Ghana, not only Ghana's Day of Shame, it is also Ghana's Shame of Lies. I mean, Day of Lies. You see, we need to make progress as a nation, and particularly as a people. And to do so, it is important that we pay glowing tribute to the founding fathers of this nation. I mean those who have done so selflessly, giving out the all of their lives, sacrificing their families and generations in that particular cause of liberation. Unfortunately, it is also the case that whilst this was happening, we also had other people in the front, some way, somehow, towards the struggle for what was known to be the independence of Ghana, ostensibly putting in efforts for the liberation of Ghana, but in a different manner. The question that arises here is, who were those doing it selflessly? And who were those doing it in a manner that became entrepreneurial, seeking to buy personal satisfactions, the greedy accumulation of wealth through the betrayal of the integrity and safety of this nation? We need to be able to revisit history to interrogate these issues so as to be able to draw a distinction and to recreate a new vision for Ghana. There is no way Ghana, all these rhetorics about our economy, all these rhetorics about our democratic credentials, KOD, there is no way we can actually succeed in a new vision that is workable for the youth and the unborn generation of Ghana without revisiting history to make the best out of same and to be able to build again on that particular foundation. And undoubtedly, and without apologies, I think that I am ready for the debate any day against anybody that Nkrumah did in fact lay that solid foundation that was required for the kind of a Ghana we would have all grown to meet and for which we all still struggle today to create. But the truth of the matter is that no building stands on a weaker foundation. And that is the fundamental worry of this nation. This was a man who offered leadership, focus, and vision against imperialism and against the forces of colonialism. Look, after having been incarcerated, after having been through suffering, within 9 years of the declaration of independence now, Nkrumah led this country to independence. The roadmap, he did not hide from Ghanaians. He indeed said that Gold Coast, now having a new birth as Ghana, was intended for 3 purposes. 1, political liberation. 2, economic emancipation. And 3, how we are able to extend same in the spirit of solidarity to the entire African country. Basic. At the time, at the advent of independence, the truth is that Ghana witnessed the existence of one political system, one political party, well known, well embraced, well acclaimed for the purpose of the advancement of the independence struggle. There's no argument about this. Going forward, it is important we state that notwithstanding this particular foundation, there were also packets of other systems with opposing views to that which the CPP intended to, resort to. So, for example, the CPP thought that we should have, a unitary system. But there were these packets of, in some cases, total aggressors. Look, we had the National Liberation Movement in the Ashanti region, headquartered in Kumasi, led by Bafo Osei Akoto. We had the Muslim Association Party or something of that nature. We actually had even the Togolese Congress Party was in existence by SGA at Awono. Okay? And not only that, my own countryman and grandfather, Simon Die Dongdombo, led the Northern People's Party. If we were to characterize all these packets of political groupings, so to say, that were in existence, you would realize that they were either religiously affiliated or predominantly geographic, and even in some cases, ethnic. And the data is clear that any country that must make progress, any country that must develop with diversity of culture and ethnicity and religion can only do so with a system of governance that is tolerant to an integrated view. But what did we witness? We witnessed a situation where, as the Nkrumah-led, CPP, with the charisma of Nkrumah, with the vision for industrialization,
which we are struggling to build now.
Okay? With the vision of industrialization, we cannot be struggling to build it now because we destroyed it. The architects of building industrialization today were the shadow players who benefited from the parochial capitalism of the betrayal of Ghana. Let's don't deceive ourselves. You see, and that is why sometimes I think that even our universities, there's a fundamental problem we must revisit. Nobody wants to tell the truth. Because, look, almost every industry in Ghana, be it political, be it service, be it manufacturing, has become extremely political. KOD. So, in a short term, just from 57 to 66, we're talking at least less than 9 years, we witnessed massive road infrastructure, including today's Tema motorway, which still stands as the best road infrastructure in this country. It was then we benefited the Volta Dam, which was intended to power the country with hydropower. And that is what we are still benefiting today. That dam was built for a population of just about 4 to 6 million. Today we are in excess of 30 million. It is that same dam we are dealing with. That is number 2. Number 3, the massive industrialization. Look, Ghana once upon the time produced car tires. The Bonsu car tires were there. We had a glass manufacturing industry in Ghana. We had rubber estates in Ghana. Rubber plantations and the rubber factories in Ghana. We even produced shoes and other, fashion that emanated from leather. Today, what have we done? We eat all the hide. It's called willy in town. What we should use for these manufacturings. We now eat it as meat. Put that aside. Just days to this particular day of shame, what did we witness? The president then, before he left for Hanoi, Vietnam, and got betrayed, we witnessed an MOU that was signed with foreign partners for the commercialization and the irrigation of the Accra Plains through to the Afram Plains area. And that was intended to feed the many factories, majority of whom had to have their supplies, from agri-produce to be able to add value. And what was the intention? The intention was to be able to export and lead a production-based economy. When all these things were happening, people were busy attending meetings with the CIA and its agents and other agents of the imperial masters and the agents of colonialism. What Ghana suffered that day was for itself to be a victim of internal betrayal and that of international incarceration. This was what happened. People were busy attending meetings in Togo. Togo became meeting grounds for which people held meetings to sabotage these moves of industrialization, and particularly the building of the Akosombo Dam and the Volta League. I am not the one saying it, and with the greatest of respect to history, what I am saying is not intended for sarcasm. I implore all viewers and all of us to read The Great Deception. The Great Deception is a book, a compilation of declassified documents of the Central Intelligence Agencies of the United States of America. They recounted what happened to this particular overthrow. So who were those who took the $30 million then? After attending meetings in Togo, $30 million to kick against the building of the Akosombo Dam and the industrialization efforts of Ghana, which after over 60, in fact, nearly 70 years today, we are still struggling to do. You see, we have done ourselves a lot of harm. The fact that I disagree with you on philosophical and ideological grounds does not invalidate a foundation of progress which you have built. That is what leadership must understand. And you see, it is why I keep shouting on this platform that the sycophancy and bootlicking in the politics today, which the youth is so quick because of the taste to amass wealth and properties, run into embracing, is bad for us. So what was intended to be the breaking grounds for which we achieve total independence, which is political independence on the one hand, which we've achieved in 57, and the bigger one, which is economic in nature, was to be what was going to happen in 1966 with the irrigation of the Accra and the Afram Plains. It was going to industrialize Ghana, and it was going to open us to the rest of the world with the avalanche of resources we had. And that was why the colonialists had to act fast, and to do so using we ourselves. So the beneficiaries of such sacrilegious political blasphemy, who have made capital and dividends out of it that have transcended into their generations, making them somewhat powerful, now think today that the rest of us should shut up from the reality of history. It simply cannot be. What would have happened if we had resorted to legitimate basis, go into elections, or advocate for, the widening of the pillars of democracy? Because, look, those who argue against this are those who immediately talk about the PDA. Yes, PDA, by its nature, may not be too sweet for tenets of democracy and rule of law. But what were the exigencies of the time? KOD. The first principle of life is self-preservation. There's no way I will want to do anything without first of all taking into consideration my life, the life of well-wishers, and those who believe in that philosophy of goodness for the development of the project for which we all stand for. PDA was a necessary evil at the time. Why? Because all these pockets of aggressors and political groupings I have mentioned did not relent. Yes, we had the legal system, the courts were functional and operational. But why do people talk about the PDA as if it was the only act Nkrumah passed at the time? Before the Preventive Detention Act of 1958, which was the first draft, subsequently saw amendments, I think, in 1960 and 1962. Before the existence of that was also the Deportation Act of 1957.
Yep.
The Deportation Act was intended to evict and to take back aliens who were very busy. In fact, Africans who were insistent on betraying the aspirations of Ghana and the rest of the African continent back to their homes. Why? Because we knew that there were infiltrators who would stop at nothing to sacrifice the rest of the nation for their parochial interest. What was wrong with it? Today, we all travel to Europe, the Americas, and other countries. Deportation is active in these countries. Why? Because you don't go there, especially as a black, misbehave and still walk on the streets, or you walk around there with the wrong immigration documents, or even not having the appropriate documentations at all, and you walk about freely in Europe. It doesn't happen in the advanced economies. So if Ghana had built that foundation to sanitize the public and to make sure that people we have in the country, apart from nationals, were people who had met the appropriate requirement and does not pose as, people poking their nose unnecessarily into the governance and the sanity and the stability of Ghana, what was wrong with it? PDA may have those shortfalls, but justifiable on the exigencies of the time. Today, what is happening is still not different. What has happened over the years, outside the military era, now into, democratic times, you still cannot misbehave in certain ways. The courts will deal with you. And when the courts begin to deal with you, the rhetoric is that depending on which political system is in government, people read political meanings into it and say that, so-so and so-so went to jail because this party is in power and because that judge presided over the matter. By the way, PDA specified the kind of activities that justified detention. What happened to the Klungugu issue? The President of the Republic was handed a hamper, which eventually was a bomb. Not only that, several attacks, including the one another grandfather of mine, Salifu Dagati, took a bullet and actually died. And his children are practically existing now without any meaningful recognition even by the state. What happened to families like that? So it tells us that the colonial powers decided to stop at nothing to pull down Ghana. And to have done so was to pull down the eyes of the people, because Charlie, that time now we they follow who no road. Now we dey follow who no road. So the time we dey follow who no road, the best thing to do to stop us was to pull out that person and leave the rest of us either automatically blind or selfishly blind, because there were other people as competent as Nkrumah, or even more than Nkrumah himself. But the question was attitude. The question was character. The question was a question of integrity. And so the lack of integrity resulted into, the betrayal of patriotism. So people actually made riches out of all these happenings. And eventually we would have Nkrumah removed in the manner he was removed on the 24th of February 1966. Almost 7 decades. And today, Ghana cannot boast of any meaningful factory. As a matter of fact, those we inherited as foundational from Nkrumah, what happened to them?
So
they've all been sold. And not only being sold, we need to trace back the buyers of these entities and those who benefited shares and those who were middlemen in the transactions. And you will realize that the Ghana first mantra we all sing as politicians, sometimes we all do not mean it. So for me, it is sad that, well, I was born around 1990. I would have been glad to be born into a country that is on a good footing and as good as all the other. Even Portugal, one of the poorest countries in Europe, colonized Africa. How can it be? And today it's still better than us. Europe altogether, what do they really have? Apart from technology. So clearly we need to consider a day like this in history as one that should, compel us to a sober reflection of reality. Let us look at what players have done. That this topic is broad and extensive.
Absolutely.
So the time is so limited.
Yes.
But let us be able to ponder, reflect about it, and make progressive moves. So
absolutely.
Indeed, today is Ghana's day of shame. And not only that, the pocket of lies and vilifications and fabrications and machinations and innuendos that resulted into this monumental shame and the dehydration of our international reputation was actually in the basket of lies and falsehood. So today is also Ghana's day of lies.
Thank you very much. You spared no words in describing today and all that happened in 1966. Honorable Enusa Fuseni. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I believe you are well and good.
I'm fine.
Fantastic.
Except that the political developments in the last 48 hours has not been very palatable.
As for Ghana, we'll get into that. But today is Ghana's day of shame.
Yes.
We've listened to Elvis's extensive analysis.
I wonder whether I should add anything to the beautiful submissions of my brother Elvis Bota. Elvis Bota is right. And I greet you good morning.
Good morning, sir.
And my brother, comrade, and friend Kosi Pratt. And your good self. And our numerous viewers. Yes, all of us are proud of Nkrumah. Myself and Elvis should be prouder of Nkrumah. Nkrumah saw that there was a development gap perpetuated by colonialism between the South and the North. The South was 100 years ahead of the North in terms of educational infrastructure. The South produced its first graduate 100 years before education went to the North. Nkrumah believed that you could not develop a nation with such wide disparities. So he instituted a program, and it's the benefit of that program that has produced people who can now comfortably hold their own against other persons. In fact, Ghana without Nkrumah would have become another apartheid, where the North would have been, in the words of Guggisberg, be confined to hewers of wood, and drawers of water. This is the man that we are talking about. This is the man who was voted at the beginning of this century as the African of the century. This is the man, if you are a Ghanaian and you travel outside the country, in those days to the Arab countries, and you said that you're from Ghana. Ghana is an Arabic word, which means wealth. And they ask you, Nkrumah is Ghana. I mean, Nkrumah is Ghana. It was later that Abedipele Ghana also came about. Then now Asamoah is Ghana. Yes. But to Nkrumah. And nowhere that you would have gone in the Arab world and parts of Eastern Europe that you would not be confronted with the name of Nkrumah. This is the man. This is the man who thought and felt, and rightly so, that Ghana's development required an aggressive, comprehensive effort at putting in infrastructure which was going to benefit the people of this country. The colonial infrastructure that led to the banks, the markets, the streets of London, Amsterdam, New York, was not serving the interests of this country. Nkrumah felt that infrastructure, the local infrastructure, must benefit the people of this country. The colonial infrastructure, where railway lines started and ended at the place where the raw materials were produced, and at the coast where the raw materials were sent out, was not serving our interests, was just meant to facilitate the exploitation of our resources. This is the man. I always say, comrade, like the Palestinians have the day of Nakba, the day of the uprising. They have Intifada. We have our day of shame. The day that Ghanaians, ably assisted and aided by imperialist forces, sought to bring to an end the reign of this illustrious son of this Africa, of Africa and of Ghana, who, Baron Nkrumah, said that the independence of Ghana in 1957, Nkrumah was already thinking global, African. I mean, even though he was in charge of Ghana, he was thinking global, the African reality, that the independence of Ghana was meaningless unless it was linked up with the total liberation of the African continent. There was no way Ghana would survive as an independent country if all countries in Africa were not independent. This was a very unique, deeply thought, and deeply impactful speech. This was a man who organized the first post-independence conference in Africa, seeking to unite the African people against colonialism. This is the man who said, we neither belong to the East nor the West. You understand? We are Africans. And so, I mean, unless you don't understand what happened on 24th day of February 1966, when people decided, with the aid of the imperialists, to overthrow Dr. Kwame Nkrumah after several attempts to curtail or shorten his life. Now, but the imperialists will always do so. Tell me, the post-independence leaders, how many of them survived? How many of them survived? And how many of them were radicals? Now, you only survived if you were pandering to the wishes and aspirations of the imperialist masters. If you do not disturb the trade rules, the rules of exploitation, then you survived. If you were seen to be disturbing the roots, the trade routes, what was fueling the prosperity of Europe, and Europe's prosperity is on the back of Africa, even up to date, even as we speak. Europe is Europe. America is America on the back of Africa. We are the bread basket that keeps these countries afloat. And so if any leader, even today, decides to be like Nkrumah, to say that we must be in charge of our own destiny, that what we produce must benefit us, imperialist forces with the Western consensus will come together to remove you and level charges upon you. Okay. The fact that our people allowed themselves to be swayed, and that is Western philosophy and propaganda. What they do first of all is to capture your mind. They invite you to their meetings. They invite you to their social events. You speak like them. You act like them. And they say you are civilized. You are different. And that's so they got our people winked. They got them to think that because they spoke like them, because they were invited to their cocktails, they joined their professions, they were like them. And so they encouraged them to overthrow and the Nkrumah's government because they will be accepted. Immediately you think like them, you act like them, and you pander to their interest. That's the strategic colonial mentality. That look, get them first, capture their minds, and when you capture their minds, they become pawns of the Western powers. So these people, their minds were captured. Up to now, some speak like them, act like them, behave like them, forget that they are in black skin. There is nowhere in Europe, in the Americas, in the Asias, that a black man originates. There's nowhere. All these people who are in the diaspora, who are blacks, are inherently Africans. They were taken from Africa under difficult conditions and in circumstances that are degrading of the human dignity. In fact, yesterday I was listening to a report, and then that report said that the callousness and wickedness of the slave masters was such that if blacks were captured as slaves, they made sure that two slaves who spoke the same language never stayed together in a ship or on a farm. That's how they succeeded in destroying the language and identity of the numerous blacks that are in the diaspora, and taught them, the crew, how to just communicate in a language that was neither English nor African. That is it. Deliberate. So, but the inherent identity, like was said by Jimmy Cliff, that whether you are found in Jamaica, in America, in wherever, and so far as you are a black man, you are an African. And the earlier these people appreciated that as blacks, we share a unique identity to chart our own course and take a pride of place. We will continue to be hewers of wood and drawers of water. It's a shame that the vision of this illustrious man of Africa, who has been acknowledged worldwide, was truncated by his own people with the influence of imperialist forces. Thank you.
Well, thank you very, 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 very kindly for this succinct delivery. Mr. Pratt, please.
Well, the Day of Shame was instituted by the Socialist Movement of Ghana about 20 years ago. And indeed, we are exceedingly happy that it has come to stay. Today, the Day of Shame is not just celebrated by the Socialist Movement of Ghana, by many others. I mean, yesterday I saw a notice that the Convention People's Party was also going to observe the Day of Shame with a public discussion of the implications of the 1966 coup. There are many other organizations which have been observing the Day of Shame. Indeed, about 10 years ago, when the Day of Shame was observed at the Accra Conference Center, we were surprised that the place was filled to capacity and many people could not gain access. We moved it from there to the National Theatre, and we had the same experience of the place being filled to capacity. Today, the Day of Shame is being observed at the headquarters of the Socialist Movement of Ghana, under the broad theme, 56 years after the overthrow of Nkrumah, the state of the Ghanaian economy. And I'm so very proud that one of the most distinguished citizens of this country would be there to speak on the theme. Today, Professor Jainana Opoku Agyeman, the first female vice-chancellor of a university in Ghana, will be there to speak on this theme. And we expect that there will be lots and lots of people, at the forum. Already we are getting so many calls from so many people looking for directions to the venue. And we've put out the venue. We are very sure that it will be a mammoth event today. I do not want to preempt what is going to happen today. I do hope and I believe that we are going to get a very interesting discussion on the state of the Ghanaian economy within the context of the February 24, 1966 coup, which many believed reversed the fortunes of this country. Kwame, today, strangely somehow, those who justified the 1966 coup, many of them find themselves in government today. And I can bet with my bottom city that none of them today will repeat the justifications they offered for the 1966 coup. You know why? Because if they did, it would justify their own overthrow. Today, those who justified the 1966 coup, if they attempt to repeat those justifications, would actually be justifying their own overthrow. Because one of the reasons they gave for supporting the overthrow of the Nkrumah government was that this country was suffering economic hardships. Can they make that argument today? Will the economic hardships today justify a coup d'etat? So history has a way, of trapping those who seek to profit from illegality and so on. So let's wait this evening at 5 p.m. at the headquarters of the Socialist Movement of Ghana, which is on the George Walker Bush Highway. You see, if you're coming from the motorway end towards the Chimota, you pass Fiesta Royal Hotel, the traffic light of Fiesta Royal Hotel, and then you come to a footbridge.
Yes.
Just at the footbridge, you take a right towards Nogahe Hotel. That is where the venue is going to be. Okay. And it's going to be an exciting discussion today.
Okay.
Very, very exciting discussion today. And I do hope that all of us who are looking for solutions to Ghana's economic problems would make it to the forum today and contribute to this discussion on the state of the Ghanaian economy. I'm reading the papers this morning. I see it's one of the topics we are supposed to be discussing.
Yes.
And I have taken particular notice of statements attributed to the Minister of Finance. For the first time, the Minister of Finance admits that the Ghanaian economy is in shambles. There is an admission from the Minister of Finance. It's not me. He says the economy is in shambles. And that if we do not agree to pay E-levy, we are dead. So now we are making the admission that the economy is in shambles. What led to that situation? And this admission was made yesterday when crude oil on the international market was selling for $90 or $91 per barrel. this morning, the price of crude oil has jumped to more than $100 per barrel. So the situation you described yesterday is much, much better than the situation today. You understand? We will meet this evening at 5 p.m.
Right.
And we will continue the discussions.
Very well. Somehow I knew you were not going to advance a lot of arguments on this. But yes, quick commercial break. When we return, we're going to be touching on the other topics here on the show. Stay with us, don't move a muscle. Just go on Facebook, like the page, share it, leave your comments underneath the live stream, and then I will read them on the show. Quick commercial break. Stay with us. My boy.
Trasacco Estates, home to Accra's most beautiful and luxurious homes, presents its newest addition, Trasacco Springs, a premium master planned community of service plots surrounded by an exhaustive list of amenities. The gated community of Tema to Accra Motorway presents you the finest opportunity to own a land that suits your preferred size, budget, and payment terms. Trasacco Springs is open to you for development. Our on-site sales executives are ready. Call on 055 659 2658.
Appreciation of the temperature of the country. Neither am I sure you know the arduous nature of the responsibility that have been placed on your shoulders. The Marshal Department, get ready. I'll be compelled to get a marshal to get people arrested and sent out. You are saying, hey, Parliament is not a place for joking. It's a place for business, serious national business. The Parliament we are in has never been in Ghana, even Gold Coast. This is a different type of Parliament. We must be prepared to change, to accept the decision of the people and work together. You make me sick. Will you shut up? You rule out of order in the House. The penchant of the First Deputy Speaker to overrule my rulings is, to say the least, unconstitutional, illegal, and offensive. Be that as it may, I shall not be taking any steps to overrule the decision of the First Deputy Speaker to dismiss the motion as moved by the Honorable Ranking Member of the Finance Committee.
This very recently here on Pan-African television, I see Elvick is trying to provoke a conversation relative to Ukraine and Russian debacle. But no, I won't fall for that. I don't mean this, Ukraine and Russian war. Briefly. Let's discuss an international story. No concern, I will tell you. The price of fuel go up.
Energy prices will go up. Our economy will suffer in some respects. The West will tend, because Russia is a supplier of about 6% of the world energy needs, and so those needs, the West will rely on Russia, will have to look at other areas to supplement whatever they will be getting from within their own countries. But clearly, I don't think that the war should have been fought. As I speak to you, Russia is invading Ukraine. The forces of Russia have moved from the area, the pro-Russian control areas in Donbass and the other cities, and they are now crossing the line into Ukraine. Now, the issue at the center is Russian security. But I have always believed that the security of a country is gotten through negotiations and not through war. Because the people of Ukraine are not Russians. They are Ukrainians. They fought for their independence. And they are an independent country. And the UN conventions forbid the use of war for the purposes of securing your national interests. Pacific solutions to disputes should be the order of the day. And if Russia is big, there's no way that Ukraine as Ukraine can hold their own against Russia. There's no way. I mean, Russia is a force. I mean, if you appreciate the weaponry, the arsenal that Russia has marshaled against this small, tiny country, Ukraine, I mean, they will simply just annihilate it. They will simply just annihilate it. This is why, but what happens to the sovereignty of Ukraine, the nationality of the Ukrainians, the pride of the Ukrainians? I mean, will Ukraine just become part of Russia and the people of Ukraine cease to exist? And these are my, as a watcher of international affairs and a person who has inherent belief in the dignity of man and the fact that people ought to be able to live in peace and that it is possible to resolve disputes peacefully. These are my views. I'm deeply worried. And it will have catastrophic consequences on the African people, because oil prices today, like my brother Kosipra has said, is trading at $103 per barrel.
Right, thank you very much. I have this message here before I come to Mr. Pratt and Mr. Henry. Kironi, if there's any request I want to humbly make from my mentor, Uncle Kwesi Pratt, this morning, it would be, and would beg that he honors it for me. It's for him, and with the support of Honorable Inus Afuseni, bless the young man Eric Buta, irrespective of his ideological affiliation, for a deepened wisdom for that brilliant submission on a subject for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Indeed, the reality on the political landscape in Ghana today makes Osajifo a saint par excellence that we may never have again. The reason we are still paying the price. Shalom. David Y. Akwete, thank you very much for your message. Mr. Pratt, please.
Well, first of all, I think that diplomacy ought to be preferred to war in any given situation. And if I were to make a call today, I would call for an immediate ceasefire with a return to the negotiating table. But that return to the negotiating table must fully respect the legitimate security interests of Russia. And I'm not the first person to say this. The French President, Macron, has stated time and time again that in order to resolve the current crisis, it is important to recognize the legitimate security interests of Russia. So that should be a point at which we should begin the discussion on what is happening today. What are those legitimate security interests of Russia, and how can they be guaranteed as a step towards, averting war and so on? And you see, Kwame, a lot of people talk without knowing the history of Russia, of Ukraine, and of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Ukraine was created by Lenin. Before the Great October Revolution, there was no country like Ukraine. Lenin actually added parts of Russia the two regions that Putin now has recognized as independent states, to what is considered as Ukraine, in order to create the state of Ukraine and bring them on board the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. So Ukraine is a creation of Lenin. Lenin created Ukraine. We may say that that is history. That is more than 70 years ago and so on. We can forget it. Let's forget it. But it is a fact of history that Ukraine never existed as the state that it is today. Now, I go back to 1961, the Cuban Missile Crisis. Cuba is an independent republic. Cuba decided to invite the Soviet Union to station missiles on its territory. The U.S. went bonkers. I hope you remember. And said they would never allow Cuba to have weapons stationed in their own country. What is the difference between that and the Russian demand today? Russia is saying that we would also never allow NATO to station offensive weapons in Ukraine, targeted at us. The same. No difference. Okay. Now, I think that the leaders of Ukraine have been most reckless over the years. You've got to appreciate the fact, as Alaji said, of the might of Russia. Russia has the largest military in Europe, perhaps even in the whole world. The largest armed forces in the whole world is Russia. So you have Ukraine sharing a border with Russia. The sensible thing to do was for Ukraine to adopt a policy of non-alignment, pursue its own national interest, and not be drawn into this reckless adventure of NATO. Because if you get drawn into the reckless adventure of NATO, which is seeking to topple the social and political system in Russia, Russia will react. And that is what we are saying. It's the recklessness of Ukraine to want to become a member state of NATO. You understand? To become the front line of the confrontation with Russia and so on, which has led to this situation. Now, mind you, when the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics was being dismantled, if you recall, Ukraine was the nerve center of the nuclear arsenal of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Ukraine decided then to dismantle its nuclear weapons and so on as part of the conditions, as part of the agreement. So Ukraine disarmed, got rid of its nuclear weapons and so on. You understand? Recently, Ukraine has been making the claim that it wants to start a nuclear weapons program. You want to start a nuclear weapons program on the border of Russia and as a member of NATO. Who is going to allow that? But as Alaji said, I fully agree with him. One, war is not something that anybody should promote. War will lead to massive destruction, loss of lives. It will set us back, the whole world back. Already the price of crude oil has jumped from $70-something per barrel to more than $100 per barrel in a spate of 3-4 days. The consequences for the world will be catastrophic. I mean, Ghana is in deep trouble. All the countries of the world are in very deep trouble, you understand? Now that brings me to another issue. You know that Ghana actually now produces more oil than we need. You know that? So that when the crude oil prices go up, if we owned our own oil, if we owned our own oil resources, we would have gained. Unfortunately, because of the agreements we have entered into with oil marketing companies and oil producing companies and so on, we only get, I think, about 20% or so of the oil we produce in Ghana. Our total oil requirement per day, I think, is around 90,000 barrels or so. We produce about 100,000 barrels a day or so, you understand? But then what we get as Ghana is only 20,000 barrels. So that brings into question ownership of our natural resources and how our national resources are exploited for our own benefit. You understand what I'm saying? But that's another discussion altogether. The world cannot afford this war. This war would have dangerous repercussions on everybody. One of the effects of this war is simply that Saudi Arabia will become a major player in world affairs today.
Yeah.
And you know why? Because Western countries are now going to be looking elsewhere for their energy supplies. Where can they go? They go to Saudi Arabia. If you're going to depend on Saudi Arabia, you need to improve your relations with Saudi Arabia. Now, the irony of it is that you're saying that Russia is so undemocratic that you don't want to do business with them, you want to fight them. Is Saudi Arabia more democratic than Russia? Russia did not kill Khashoggi. You understand? Russia did not kill Khashoggi and dismember his body. Now we are going to embrace Saudi Arabia as against Russia. It's funny. Now I sit back and I ask myself, today, what is the justification for the existence of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization? Because the North Atlantic Treaty Organization was established as a counterforce to the Warsaw Pact. Warsaw Pact no longer exists. Why does NATO exist? Somebody should justify why NATO should be existing today. Bottom line, let's end the war. Let's go back to the negotiation table if there is a genuine desire for peace. And if there's a genuine desire for peace, then statements made by Emmanuel Macron, the French president, should be taken seriously. Because it is him who made the claim that Russia has legitimate security interests. Let's look at those legitimate security interests and address them.
Thank you, Mr. Pratt. Well, still streaming on Facebook. Kindly share the feed. Kindly leave your comment. And I will read them. Elvis, please. Yes, sir.
Interesting times. And this does not come as a surprise for anybody who follows world affairs. Indeed, this has been there over the years. But the Russian-Ukrainian crisis, saw an escalating light of day somewhere in 2014 when the Russian army invaded the legislative hall of Ukraine. And they did not just do this out of impunity, but they do so. Russia did so on the basis of what they consider a protection of their sovereignty, two, a protection of their national interest, and three, as a matter of legitimate security consideration. You see, in conflict analysis, you are careful to have peace as the foundation of it. But in so doing, you must want to identify the shadow hands that are a beneficiary of that particular conflict. And this is where the extreme westernization and the poking of nose into the affairs of other nations by America becomes a worry to the rest of the world, just on the basis that America wants to continue to protect and to improve its place as it advances towards being a hegemonic power within the international space. KOD, we should not under any time pray for what some of us see as World War III emanating from this particular matter. It's a simple case. Ukraine has been a total creation of communist Russia under Lenin, and in fact aided by Stalin far back. And if we are to just look at it in terms of historical sense, 1917. So even the land occupied by Ukraine belongs to Russia. And that justifies the invasion and the collection of the Crimea Peninsula. The problem with Ukraine is that they are being deceived by America. If that is true, that Ukraine has been a creation of Lenin, then it tells you that Ukraine today, and through to the words of Vladimir Putin, Ukraine is actually part of the physical, the legal, and the spiritual space of Russia. There's no argument about it. In fact, there is global consensus even in academia on this. Today, maybe the greatest sin was for Lenin to have actually given out Ukraine in the manner it was given out. And now they seek to be the conduit through which enemies of Russia, of the Russian Federation, would want to pass through to undermine the security and the sanctity of Russia. For my goodness sake, who will sit down, especially considering the matters that engulfed the Cold War? Who will sit down and watch the materialization of the infiltration of America through its allied institution, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, to not only use Ukraine, but to actually make Ukraine a full member of NATO? And what that means in international law is that NATO will be at the free will, and of course in this sense America will have the free right to be able to do anything they want in Ukraine, including piloting, military and nuclear weapons there. And that automatically undermines the territorial integrity and the sovereignty of Russia. And the rest of the world think that Vladimir Putin should sit there and watch it. If I am president, I will do worse than Vladimir Putin is doing. I love and I salute Vladimir Putin. He is my man. He needs to do more. Now, look at it. Why the rest of the world must be concerned is the fact that as for Ukraine, it is an insignificant variable of this equation, because Russia can just wipe out Ukraine. As we talk, when the trouble started 4 days ago, in a manner that was escalating, the US quickly sent weapons to Ukraine. Vladimir Putin's reaction to that is to make sure that Ukraine is completely blocked as we speak. Not even the airspace of Ukraine is opened. Because if you do that, some other players will run in, and when America runs into Ukraine, giving it full member status, then they can station NATO forces and its allied military and paramilitary agencies around the borders of Russia, and they will test and pilot missiles. Ukraine can be wiped out, but the rest of us, what happens? Ukraine contributes less than 1%. Ukraine, less than 1% of global energy in terms of oil and gas. Less than 1%. Crude oil, less than 1%. Gas, less than 2%. It's about 1.04. KOD. But Russia, crude alone in excess of over 11 million barrels per day, making it the largest international energy supplier and crude supplier to Europe. So this war has consequences on Europe and even China and Africa and Ghana, that are largely import-driven nations. The political economy of this whole matter is that there will be a hike in the energy prices, and today it has already reflected in world crude market. So what it means is that even Ghana and the rest of the world will witness an upward adjustment in crude prices, and prices of petroleum products will be on the rise. So I won't be surprised if by tomorrow we are buying a liter of oil in Ghana 8 cedis and more. In fact, almost 9 cedis. So KOD, if we are to consider this, it affects world industry.
Okay.
So the greed of the West cannot translate into the trouble of the rest of us. I saw this coming for some 6 years now. America has been rehabilitating its, fractured relationship with Saudi Arabia. Why? Because they will simply make a shift to Saudi Arabia to patronize oil to power the world energy sector. And that makes Saudi Arabia a very critical and important international player. And if the West are crying that they do all these things to Russia in the name of democracy and human sanity, how different will the case be in dealing with the Arab world, including Saudi Arabia and even Qatar? Qatar will be relevant too. Meanwhile, these are areas that have equal or in fact a worse in the definition of democratic, doctrines now than Russia. So we need to look at it. The UN Security Council must, as a matter of agency, emerge with, a resolution on this matter. Then we resort to, it's not all the time diplomacy work. Well, let's be very honest. Diplomacy does not do the magic all the time. Sometimes a little aggression gives a good foundation for diplomacy, which, by the way, only thrives on international law to prevail. So today, if America is crying in the manner they are doing, how lawful, in terms of the international legal architecture, is their actions towards Ukraine justifiable in international law against Russia? So this is the hypocrisy we have always spoken about. So it's okay, we can only wish it well. Vladimir Putin should not give up in any way, but the UN must again rise up to prove to the rest of the world that indeed it is an integrated international community of integrity that can manage affairs in the construction of world peace. Okay. It is important for industry and for humanity.
Let's see if we can help in the construction of the Ghanaian economy by looking at the next topic. Economy in tatters. Asking if Rata begs Ghanaians to accept E-levy. I don't know whether you saw the picture of a taxi driver who was used E-levy.
No, I haven't.
Okay, well.
I haven't seen that.
But Elvis,
talk to me.
Why has it become so important for us to collect or accept E-levy? Why is it so important to this government?
The finance minister have answered this question already, and you have just read it on the topic. The finance minister says, and for me, that is humility. I called on the eating of the humble pie on E-levy on this platform.
You did?
You see, pregnancy will always mature. There's no woman under the sun who can hide pregnancy. So, truth speaking is also a virtue in leadership and governance. Unfortunately, in some parts of the world, including Ghana, when leadership speaks the truth about the reality, it becomes the weapon with which they are fought against. I think that the finance minister, in accepting that the economy is under difficult circumstances and challenges, amounts to eating the humble pie. It amounts to accepting that it is not well, for which reason E-levy is one of the ways they intend as a ministry to support government to, as it were, try to give some support system to the economy. So if the minister for the sector, the economic sector, says that the economy is in bad waters as it stands now, it then gives a call of obligation that what do we do as a nation to make sure that we are exonerated, or at least we mitigate the matter small. And so for me, yes, there is no need pretending about the situations, going to the marketplace, going to get products in our daily movement and in everything we do. It is clear that the ordinary Ghanaian complains of hardship. And so, if hardship is what has become the order of day, then we are to look at possible mechanisms with which we can actually water down the effect of same. So it brings back the very two questions I have always mentioned here. The IMF or E-levy. But either ways, it raises the question of prudence in the management of our financial and fiscal space. Because E-levy, assuming it is collected, or assuming we do a hybrid program of going to IMF and still collecting E-levy at the same time, KOD, it will still not solve all the problems of this economy. It will still not witness the massive building of schools and hospitals. And the Tangasia Road to Cherpong, where I come from, might not be tapped. Why? Because Ghana's problem is not just about the collection of revenue and money. KOD, it is also more having to do with the wastage and the leakages we have in the system that successive governments, including this government, have done nothing about or have not been able to tackle in any way. So for me, yes, finance minister's call is just to tell Ghanaians that we operate a legitimate system of governance that is listening, and we are able to confront the truth. He has not come to polish, he hasn't come to polish a non-existent picture about the matter. And so, if this is the humble call, then it then opens our arms to a lot more of broader consultation and consensus building. I see that here. So the Council of State should advise pragmatically on this, and not only advise, see to how Parliament, which represents the interest of all of us now, will be able to, together with the media, civil society group, the chieftaincy institution, come out with a consensus on the way forward.
What Council of State has already met the majority in Parliament? Majority side.
They have. They should meet the rest. They should bring them to a common table.
All right.
Let what is agreed be a consensus of all. That is the way out.
Honorable, economy.
About a month ago, Bryce Simmons said that, was it Frank Kujo? One of them said that the economy had forced government to speak the truth.
That was Frank
Kujo, yeah. And then one of them also said that that was the first time that government ministers were going out to say that they had failed. When they decided to go around on their public, that was the first time. And the manifestation of the fact that government was simply going around telling people that it had failed. When we said this thing, when we saw the cracks in the economy, when we saw the profligate expenditure, when we saw the political projects, when COVID was not there, and we drew attention to the pronouncements of Nana Akufo-Addo, that saving the public purse could not in any way be met if he populated the presidency with that number of staffers. that it was not intended with saving the public purse, that to appoint the record number of ministers. He said no, that there was work for them. That time there was no COVID though. Because we said that Nana Akufo-Addo, your decision to embark on the creation of regions and districts was simply wasteful expenditure, because they were not going to add anything to the productivity of the country. He said, oh, we will do it in any way. Some regions are still struggling to have regional administrations. He said, one district, one factory, one district, one dam. You were just digging dark holes, and you were spending the money recklessly. He said, yes, we will do it. Today, COVID then came, and this was what I was saying, that the underlying vulnerabilities. It was not underlying vulnerabilities inherited, like Elvis Butler said some time ago. Inherited under the...
didn't get the chance
to respond. It was not underlying vulnerabilities created by John Dramani Mahama. It was because, you see, John Dramani Mahama left safety buffers. So the money in the fund, stabilization fund, which was available when COVID came. The gas plant, which was available and running. The oil wells. These are buffers. The vulnerabilities were created as a result of the reckless and wasteful expenditure and the thievery and corruption in the system. They created a league table. I don't know what a comrade remembers, of how many sole source projects were awarded under Mahama, and how many sole source projects were awarded in 2007. You know, it became a subject matter of debate. They have since abandoned the league table. I don't think they talk about competitive tendering anymore. Everything in this government is now sole sourced. But this was major. This is what we're saying. And sorry, was it Professor Kote or Professor who said that we shouldn't be saying that the economy is broke because it will scare away investors. When we were saying it, today the minister himself has said it, that the economy is broke. Because we have always known on this platform, my brother Kosi Prawa has always been at pains in saying that the money we raise internally cannot satisfy two budgetary items. It cannot pay a compensation, that is wages and salaries. It cannot pay total interest on loans that we have contracted. So we have even to borrow. We have to borrow to pay interest. My Comrade dramatizes by saying that, look, even fuel that we buy in the president's car is from borrowed money. Because if money is used to pay interest, or our money is used to pay interest and salaries, whatever we use for recurrent expenditure in the terms of buying fuel for our vehicles is borrowed money. The economy is in shambles. In fact, but what beats my imagination, to be honest with you, is whether government and the finance minister have come to their wits' end. They are creating the impression that if we don't get E-levy, then they don't know what to do. I don't just understand. There was no plan B. You see, this underlines the arrogance, the pride, the impunity of the MPP and the finance minister. Because why will you think that if we bring E-levy, it will be accepted? Why will you think that way? And if E-levy is not accepted, you don't have any plan at all. Today, the plan they have now is that they are cutting down to up to 20% of capital expenditure across board. Because E-levy was to fund capital expenditure, and there's no E-levy now. So we have to understand, what kind of finance minister is that? You bring a tax handle, it is opposed by the people. You don't withdraw it and go to think about it, and up other taxes and bring in some measures to ensure that you don't suffer a debilitating fall in revenue. You just take to your guns that whatever, you are now prepared to concede a 0.25% reduction. 0.25% reduction in the tax and bring it up to 1.5. The thing is that what the people of Ghana are saying is that even 0.01% they won't pay. And so the better they came up with an alternative, right. The earlier they came up with an alternative, the better.
It's interesting because I recall that in the heat of the COVID-19, the president made an emphatic statement which gained world recognition, that we don't know how to bring back the dead, but what we do know how is to bring back the economy. So I thought we were going to bring back the economy. I didn't know it was going to be in tatters. Mr. Pop, please close the show for us.
As I said earlier, we need to think outside the box. E-levy, I mean, insisting on E-levy is not thinking outside the box. It's actually thinking inside the box and worsening the crisis, you know. What we're being told now by people in government now is that E-levy or nothing, E-levy or we die. I think that's a bit strange. That our future, our everything, depends on one economic measure. It's a bit strange. Now, as I said earlier, I'll be talking about these things today, later. And I don't want.
Please, can you give us the time and the venue again, please?
Well, it's at the headquarters of the Socialist Movement of Ghana. It's on the George Walker Bush Highway, next door to Noga Hill Hotel, and it's at 5 p.m. today.
5 p.m. today. It will be live on Pan-African as well, and on Facebook. But it will be nice if you get there and take pictures and listen to wisdom. Oh no, are you going to be there? Yes.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes, I've made up my mind.
All the comments are coming.
Indeed, I took the shirt that you gave me for the t-shirt for Nkrumah's birthday, and I realized that it will confuse people. That's what I was going to wear for this program.
Oh, I see.
The black t-shirt.
Yes.
I took the color black as
of shade.
Yes.
Yes.
But I saw the date of birth, and I said no. So you probably will be doing new t-shirts, not so?
No, we are not doing. We are broke. We are very broke.
The economy is in tatters.
We are as broke as Ghana, and we are not doing t-shirts this time.
The economy is in tatters. Let me say a big thank you to your Honorable Minister for for your time this morning. Hey, why? You want us all the time, eh?
It's okay.
It's time.
Thank you very much, Sir. Elvis, let me to give you a last straw, Charlie. Today, we are retired. Let's go look for more there, Charlie. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Do have a wonderful day. See you at 5 p.m. At the headquarters of Socialist Movement of Ghana, close to Noga Hill Hotel on the George Walker Bush Highway. I'll see you 5 p.m. Bye.
The Socialist Movement of Ghana, SMG, invites all progressive and revolutionary forces to the observance of Ghana's Day of Shame on Thursday, February 24th, 2022. 56 years has passed since the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA of the USA, and its local collaborators launched a futile attack on the African Revolution. This Day of Shame will be marked with a public forum on the theme 56 years after the overthrow of Nkrumah, the state of the Ghanaian economy. The event will be chaired by Comrade Post-coup, convener of the Socialist Movement of Ghana. The speakers will be Professor Jane Nana Opoku Ajiman, first female vice-chancellor of a public university in Ghana and vice presidential candidate of the NDC in the 2020 elections, and Comrade Kwesi Pratt Jr., General Secretary of the Socialist Movement of Ghana. The event starts at 5 p.m. prompt at the new headquarters of the Socialist Movement of Ghana, next door to the Noga Hill Hotel on the George Walker Bush Highway. Come and join the struggle to ensure that imperialism never succeeds. This event will be telecasted live on Pan-African television and streamed on our Facebook and YouTube pages.
African.
The Socialist Movement of Ghana, SMG, invites all progressive and revolutionary forces to the observance of Ghana's Day of Shame on Thursday, February 24th, 2022. 56 years has passed since the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA of the USA, and its local collaborators launched a futile attack on the African Revolution. This Day of Shame will be marked with a public forum on the theme 56 years after the overthrow of Nkrumah, the state of the Ghanaian economy. The event will be chaired by Comrade Post-coup, convener of the Socialist Movement of Ghana. The speakers will be Professor Jane Nana Opoku Ajiman, first female vice-chancellor of a public university in Ghana and vice presidential candidate of the NDC in the 2020 elections, and Comrade Kwesi Pratt Jr., General Secretary of the Socialist Movement of Ghana. The event starts at 5 p.m. prompt at the new headquarters of the Socialist Movement of Ghana, next door to the Noga Hill Hotel on the George Walker Bush Highway. Come and join the struggle to ensure that imperialism never succeeds. This event will be telecasted live on Pan-African television and streamed on our Facebook and YouTube pages.
Hello, what are you doing Tuesday to Friday, 7:30 to 9 o'clock p.m. every day? You should be watching The Couch. I'll tell you why. On Tuesdays, we talk social issues, life